Welcome back to Thinksipwrite. Tonight we decided, I was sitting there and I read this story about, it was a horrible story, about a murder. This father killed his family. And I'm like, I was sitting there and I was reading the story and I'm going, what makes that tick in a person?
Well, I think we all have those not to that extent, but certain thoughts about certain things, and but that's to the extreme.
Yeah, you get pushed to a point. You never get pushed to that point.
You do hear these stories about people that say they black out. But is that an excuse, or do you black out? Do you get to the point where you don't see anything when you lose control?
And I think part of it ties into the human curiosity. Part of it is, morbid curiosity, really.
What do you? Why do you specify? What are you?
Well,
like
you're driving in traffic, right? And there's this traffic jam, and I'll use I-95 for anybody who's on the East Coast. You'll know, especially when you get near Philly, I-95 just gets bumper to bumper, and 9 times out of 10 it's because of an accident. And you'll notice that everybody slows down and stares. And now I'm the type of person that
I always pray for those people.
Yeah, you do. You're very good.
I don't care if I just get in the car and we get on a major highway. I'm always doing the sign of the cross. Or if we pass by, an accident or something like that, I'm always praying for people not to be hurt, or I just, but it is, like you were saying, it's curiosity.
It is. I'm the type of person, I'll walk along, and if I see a few years ago, I was mowing my grass, and I didn't know there was a bunny hole there, and I hit a bunch of baby bunnies, and the one
Who came to the rescue?
You leapt out of the car and you came to the rescue, and we both tried to nurse it to help. And we raised birds for a while.
I remember your dad saying, "I don't think you're gonna save it," and it was so
we did everything we could. But we're the type of people that you see a small tiny animal, and we're there trying to help it.
Yeah.
And obviously the same for humans. I mean, humans, above animals, but even though we're like that, there's a certain part of you that goes, okay, I need to look. Not that you want to. You don't want to see anything bad, but you look knowing that there's a chance there may be something bad.
I know when I was younger, I was always curious. I always wanted to look and stuff like that. Now if I don't see anybody, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the crash, blah blah blah. But if there's people around, so I don't wanna look, because I just don't want to see that. I pray for those people. I just can't put myself to look at and like I said, I think it's just now being a parent and seeing the world in a completely different light than what I did.
I think that changes a lot too.
Yeah.
When you're in your teens and your 20s, you're running around going, oh, I'm immortal. You
party, you do so much. I mean, there's times now where you party a little bit, and you're just like, I can't recuperate the way I used to, and you learn the hard way, but...
yeah, but there's a difference, too. You care now, right, as a parent, and now, I'm saying in your, by the time you hit your 30s, you start to go, okay, well,
right,
all right, maybe I shouldn't party too hard or whatever.
Right. And, now you have little eyes looking at you constantly, judging you.
That's if you're a parent. That's if you're a parent. But even if you're not a parent, I think you get to a certain point where you're like, all right,
you're tired.
I'm past that phase.
Yeah.
For many different reasons.
Right.
But the human mind, I think, it just doesn't go away from that curiosity. Whether it's what lays out there in space, what are the mysteries of the ancient Egyptian pyramids or whatever, or what makes the human body work.
Well, I know with me, one of my biggest struggles that I have is now just when I go to events, or if I go to LA, get on an airplane, and I actually cry in an airplane because I'm like, what if this is the last time I see my family? You know, and I don't want to have those thoughts, but I never had those thoughts before. I could get in an airplane before, I could go anywhere, you know, but now it's like I get worried that if that's the last time, my kids, and I think that's my thing, is that I don't want my kids to have to go through not having a mother.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's the way you feel, but...
No, it is. And I think that kids definitely change your perspective. Like before, like if I could say right now, if I didn't have kids, I probably wouldn't think that way.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going up there going, oh yeah, I want to take this chance at dying or anything like that. Mortality definitely is always there.
But I wonder if it changes after your kids get older.
I don't think it does.
Like in adulthood.
I don't think it does.
Because
my
like once
parents...
but once they're like established, they have their families and stuff like that, like, are you okay? Because we're all gonna die at some point.
If anything,
right?
I feel like it gets worse. I mean, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But like, you know, we're at the age now where we go, oh my God, well, you know, I hope my parents are around for another 30 years, you know? Where at the same time, they're probably sitting there going, you know what?
Time's a ticking.
I don't want to not be there.
Right.
Because my kids still need me, even though they're grown adults. Like, my parents still treat me like I'm a teenager sometimes, you know?
But the thing is, I think it's just,
I
think that's just part of being a parent. I think you always will. But at the same time, I think when you get to a certain age and you see where your kids are, they have their family. Because, like, with my grandparents and my parents, the way they would always say, not my parents, because my parents have spoiled me throughout my life, like, growing up. But, you know, I haven't been around them for that much, you know, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I know that if I am around my parents, they do spoil the crap out of me with, like, everything. Like, my dad, if I asked my dad to cut my meat, he would probably cut my meat into tiny little pieces.
Well, because, you know,
he's a chef,
you can't
too.
really handle cutting your meat yourself.
But, no, stop. But, you know what I mean? Like, he's willing to do that. But at the same time, the way you're raising your kids for the world, you're not raising them for yourself. Right?
But a lot of people aren't even given that luxury.
Right.
You know? So...
Right. But at the same time, it's like, your family, right now, the most important thing to me it's my kids and my husband. That's my family. That's what is the most important to me.
And that brings me back to, I don't understand being in that position. And then, you know, like, you may have heard about, there was a guy in New York who ended up... killing his little girl because he couldn't get custody of her. Right. You know, and I won't go into detail about it, but the way she died was like
we had one here. We had one here in Philadelphia.
We had one in Philly. Yeah. It happens all the time, and it's like I can't fathom that level of disconnect. You know, and then so I start doing research about, and I've done research about serial killers and the criminal mind for books.
And we've watched the Ted Bundy thing.
Ted Bundy's a prime example. He was an upstanding citizen. He was involved in a lot of community service stuff. Great student.
Had no records.
But a lot of it goes back to child neglect. And from what studies have done is that they are kind of like calling out for attention. Like they were neglected in a certain way. I think most people at some point are neglected in a certain way. And of course, obviously, people with broken families are subject to that more. But these are people that are coming from families who are supposedly involved.
Well, there's a lot more there with not just child neglect, but sometimes there could be abuse.
Well,
mentally, verbally, sexually. Like, there's things that make people, as an adult, do things that they don't want to do. I'm not saying they don't want it, but that's just the way they were raised, and they have these urges and these feelings, I guess. I don't know how to explain it.
That's the disconnect I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I can't understand. I can't think on that level. I can put my mind in that state of, okay, this is why I'm a serial killer. As an author, I try to get into those roles while I'm writing a role. And doing a lot of research, you see some of that stuff. I know, that's some crazy stuff going on. It's kind of creepy. You don't want to see my internet history.
Okay, we don't,
But at the same time, you know, most serial killers are, they pick their targets randomly. They don't murder people they know most of the time. So it's kind of like they just, and there's no pattern behind it, at least at first.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a pattern when they start getting away with it.
Yeah. See, my fascination with it is the aspect of I wanted to be an attorney. You know, the only reason I didn't go into that is just way too much studying.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got time for that. But my thing is, I love researching and finding out the case of what made the person do this, what, like, investigating. Like, that's my thing. Like, I'm fascinated by it. I love investigating things. Like,
Well, now you started out going to med school before you got into all your culinary stuff and everything. So does gore and stuff like that bother you?
So it's funny because when we first started dating, I would make you watch those, remember?
Like surgery
things, and that never
this
bothered
is like
me.
pre-Dr. Pimple
Yeah, like
Popper, by the way, which is ridiculous.
this used to be like open brains, like they used to do it on the Discovery Channel, I think, or whatever it was. Like, you know, open heart surgery, like stuff like that. That would never bother me. I was so fascinated by it. I can still look when they're taking blood, like that doesn't bother me. I know last year when I had an issue here when they did the little surgery thing, I was looking, and that's when my blood pressure dropped and I got really, really nauseous. So yes, it does change. I can't handle certain things now. Well, I don't know why. I just...
Well, maybe that's part of being... Now, see...
I can't handle certain things.
With me, I've always been the guy... Now, I worked on a military base for a few years, and for 8 years, and we had to go every 6 months to have, you know, blood taken just for tests and stuff like that. And I had this one guy, and I mean, he took the needle, and he couldn't find a vein, and he literally did this. He was the Army doctor that just did that.
Well, you gotta be
Air
tough.
Force. But you need to know how to insert a needle. So at that point,
do you have thin veins?
No, I don't have thin veins. But this guy couldn't find it. So the problem is...
And you didn't know which arm has the bigger veins?
No, it was this arm.
I know I have thin veins, and I always go, right there, that's the one. Don't even try here, because I know. Because
keep in mind, so this was back when I was working out quite a bit, and I was boxing at the time, so my veins were a little more prominent than they are now. They were easily found. This guy couldn't find a vein. And what he did to me in that experience bothered me to the point where now, if I even see a needle and think about it going into any part,
you're shaking the
my
camera.
palms get sweaty.
Get all crazy.
I do. I get.
You get yellow.
I get yellow and I get faint. And when I get an IV or something like that, and I had an IV where it healed around my hand and they ripped it out, and I have the scar there to prove it. Stuff like that. Now, a simple needle bothers me. But at the same time, I've worked for a company for years, Techline Trauma, and they excel in making medical trainers.
Some of those things look real.
We had to research for the artists and sculptors.
You should put like a link or something so people could check it out.
I think I will.
Yeah.
We sculpted all that stuff or molded it off of actually cadaver parts and things like that.
The faces that I'm making in this episode are ridiculous.
They always are. You have the best facial expressions ever. Those type of things, even though you don't want to see it, you still look because I'm, out of curiosity, I look. But that stuff didn't bother me as much as this. As much as the thought of a needle going into the arm. So when you think about something, and of course, when I saw C-sections, that didn't bother me at all either because I had been desensitized.
Yeah, but was it because it's not specifically on you, not being done on you? That's why it doesn't bother you.
Maybe. I mean, there's been a few times.
You know what? You can't watch a needle being done on TV. Like somebody puts a needle
on TV. It's different, but in the scene, I'm acting like I rescued and gave CPR to a kid who was drowning in a pool.
Yeah, but that's different than.
Right, and my grandmother...
But what I'm talking about is blood. Like, you can't watch
my grandmother
a needle...
fell down the steps, split her head open, and I had blood all over.
You can't watch needles being put into someone's arm on TV.
But it's
even
not,
on TV.
It's not the blood that bothers me. It's the needle going into the vein.
But that's the only thing that bothers you. Think
no,
about
the other
it.
stuff bothers me. I see it, and I get pale thinking about it. I mean, I remember seeing a few things where I nearly passed out, and I've seen quite a few things. That could be a whole other episode, but I still don't understand. Even though I can stomach some of that stuff, I still
So
cannot.
you want to know why the human
I
brain?
don't understand.
But then there's other people that can handle. I think it's just everybody has a different way of thinking, and everybody has a different kind of level of what they can take, and then they also have different life experiences. You know, so I think that's just the way it goes, kind of really. Like
Yeah, well, you think of where modern medicine is now compared to where it was. Like my dad's mom was an army field medic, basically, in World War II. You know,
Right.
what are you seeing back then? You're amputating.
Right. But I think, and this is where the human, like us as a human, what do you say? Human beings, right? I was gonna say human entity.
Well, we
I was
are
gonna say-
human beings.
Wait, but I was gonna say human entity. That's what I was gonna say. But like, I know for me, for a fact, that as much as I don't like gore now, but if I saw someone in a certain circumstance or a certain situation, I will
You would act to help.
no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, right now, poop and puke does not bother me.
Oh, puke bothers me.
I could deal with that.
I can't deal with puke.
No problem at all. I don't care if it's a stranger. Like, it does not bother me. Like, I am good. Like, I'm there. Yes, it may, but it does not. It doesn't make me. Especially if it's my kids, or especially if it's a little kid. Like, I'm just like right there to help them.
No.
I don't really care.
No. If I see a little kid puking, even if it's my own kid,
Yeah,
I'll grab a
I know.
blanket or a bag and I'll go, there
Or
it is.
no, you
Take
go
care
like
of it.
this. Okay, are you
Yep,
all right?
time for me to leave.
It's ridiculous.
I'm not doing it. I won't do it. So, and that's another example of I can't fathom. I can't fathom that whole thing. At the same time, I'll be guilty of this. Mortal Kombat games. It's gratuitous violence. It's absolutely out of
It's
this
a
world.
video game.
But I will sit there and I will do everything I can to perform every fatality in its most ridiculous content just to see it because I think it's funny.
Did your nerd alert go
I did.
way up high?
It did, but it's still in the same conversation. I don't care. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I can't take a needle, but
Anyway.
So if I don't know if you're a psychologist or something, and you can cue us in on
Why the brain thinks that way.
Yeah, I mean we could do hours of research, and there's conflicting.
This was just a
things.
conversation we wanted to bring up. We were talking about this tonight. Because when I go to events and stuff like that, I always think about certain things, and why do I think that way? And I think it's just because I'm a parent, and I think that's why. But
I think we're all hypocritical in a certain way when it comes to those things. Like, me with not wanting to see puke, but I could handle blood or something like that. But not being able to handle
blood and not puke.
Well, it depends.
Does that?
Because of the whole needle experience I had, I can't see blood coming from veins, and I actually had to help save somebody up at Bloomsburg. And I threw that university out there because it happened. Way back. I mean, we're talking years ago.
Okay, but still, like...
I don't know. I can't handle any injury like on the underside of the arms.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of my experience.
It
It kind of skews me out a little bit. I don't know. But I could see a pile of guts on the table, and will it get me nauseous? Yeah, absolutely. But it won't bother me as much as the thought of a needle going into an arm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand, and maybe it's just I just don't understand how the human brain works.
You have a complicated brain.
I do have a complicated brain.
That's exactly it.
It's what happens when you're a super genius.
Do you have a big brain?
Maybe.
Okay.
So.
Anyway.
And I don't know. So this was a rambling episode. It really had nothing to do with anything. What was that?
Anyway, but if you know how the brain works and why we think certain
I
things,
think I just said that. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe you did.
You know how
but
Roberta's
you're rambling
brain,
a lot.
If you know how Roberta's brain works, and you can cue me on, on how it works.
Sometimes you talk
please.
so much that it just goes over my head.
I think everything goes
Or
over
it
your
goes
head.
in one ear and out the other.
Well, they say a lot about that too. So
Anyway,
cheers.
cheers.